All right, so I got a chance again this summer to get out to Coast Gravity Park out on the Sunshine Coast near Seashell. It's one of my favorite places to go. It's this great little shuttle hill that I was super intimidated by, and I got a video about it last time I was there. But this time was great. Really enjoyed it. I usually bring my DH bike there because it does have some pretty short but really techy lines or some big flow lines, so you can hit everything on the DH bike, and that's usually what I bring. On this trip, I ended up bringing the bike behind me, which is my trail bike. So 120 rear, in this case 150 front. It used to be 130, but I upgraded the fork. And yeah, it turned out to be just a really fun, nimble bike in that whole park. I kind of limited myself to doing the blue trails, but yeah, let's check out the edits and I'll talk to you about some pros and cons of riding that bike and my thoughts on it this year. So obviously it was a ton of fun out there. I did have one incident where I obviously went over the bars, and I blame that always on my abilities. But in this case, it was a steeper red triangle trail called RAD Dragon.
Yeah, I'm good.
And amazing trail, but it's got a really steep start to it, which I'm fine on the DH bike to do, and I was even fine on this bike to do. But there's a little drop off right at the top of the steep section, and I grabbed the brakes on this, and this being Shimano XT actually grabbed pretty hard and brought the back end up. And so I let go, and all of a sudden I was kind of bucked immediately as I went over it, which was fine. So I kind of bucked, went down, back wheel was coming up, had the front brake held, and I was about to go completely over the bars, and I just let go of the front brake. And then, yeah, just gave up on it and let the bike kind of slide off into the bushes. Yeah, so the bike behind me is like a light trail bike, I'd consider it these days. It's 2016 Norco Optic. I have upgraded the fork to be 150 mil, 36 mil stanchions. So it does have a lot beefier fork on it, which is really nice. 27.5 wheels are actually perfect for this bike park kind of thing. I find them to be quite nimble. It doesn't have that steep of a head tube angle, or it has quite a steep head tube angle, but I find that just a little more nimble. And as long as I have my body position correct, which isn't too hard on these trails, I can really throw the bike around and feel pretty confident on it. Compared to the DH bike, I really like this bike. Even though I did limit myself to the flow trails, I loved it. It was super fun. It was obvious there wasn't as much travel on the back, but I felt that was almost better coming out of corners and going into corners. I didn't have as much kind of squishy feeling going into the corners or approaching jumps. This would lock into the corners really well, and I could push and I would get that spring out of the corner. And then when I was approaching a jump, I could just give it a little bit of a pump right before the lip, and it would pop me up. Or the other one, you give it a little bit of my DH bike, you give it a little bit of a pump and it kind of squishes in and then lunges over the top of the lip there on the tables. So it was just a different feeling, but it's one I'm more comfortable with. I only get out on the DH bike probably a half dozen, maybe 10 times a year. This bike I'm getting out 20 to 40 times a year on, and I'm constantly adjusting things on this bike, so I'm much more confident. So if you were somebody that was thinking, well, do I need to rent a DH bike or bring my trail bike? I would say, of course, it depends, but generally you can get away, especially like Coast Gravity Park, with a trail bike, because they have trails that are well suited for beginners and they're really well manicured, kind of similar to Cumberland. The trails are just immaculate. They're always on top of it, and you can have that confidence that a green is going to be a green. It's not going to have a surprise giant rock in the center or a log that fell down overnight. And you can be confident that the blues are going to be consistent as well, and the blacks and the pro lines, of course, as well. But if you're debating bringing your trail bike there versus renting, you're probably in that category I am, where you're a beginner, intermediate. So yeah, you can bring the trail bike, just be prepared to be limited by where you're gonna go. If you really wanna ride every type of terrain out there, yeah, rent a bike. They got tons of techie stuff out there, and they'd be happy to let you rent. I believe they have Camacels? I don't know how to say it. Camacel? Sounds right, it's French. And yeah, it's good. So yeah, try it out.